Total actual cost? Maybe 40 cents? Probably less. Amish women make this meal when the garden sits empty and the meat supply runs low. It fills bellies, it satisfies kids, and it uses up eggs that would otherwise go to waste. But speaking of stretching ingredients, wait until you see what they do with one cabbage head. One cabbage head. That's it. From this single vegetable, an Amish mother feeds her entire family dinner with leftovers to spare. Here's how the math works out. A good-sized cabbage yields 12 to 15 rolls. Each roll contains a mixture of ground pork, rice, and onions. 1 pound of meat suddenly becomes a feast for 10 people. The trick? Blanch those outer leaves until pliable, stuff them tight, roll them like little green burritos. My grandmother called these poverty packages. She wasn't wrong. Then comes the tomato sauce. Remember all those mason jars lining Amish cellar shelves? Summer tomatoes get crushed, seasoned, and preserved by the hundreds. That sauce gets poured over the cabbage rolls before they slow bake for hours in wood-fired ovens. The dish actually came from Eastern European immigrants who settled near Pennsylvania Amish communities centuries ago. Good ideas travel, apparently. And here's what nobody tells you. These rolls taste better the next day. The flavors marry overnight, which makes them perfect for feeding farmhands during harvest when nobody has time to cook twice. Total cost per serving? Maybe 30 cents? Now those potatoes sitting in the root cellar? They're about to become something even more filling. Potatoes. The backup plan that never fails. Amish families don't store a few bags in the pantry like normal people. They're hauling 500 to 800 pounds into root cellars every fall. That's not a grocery run. That's preparing for siege warfare. And potato soup with rivels? This might be the most filling cheap meal ever invented. Here's the base. Morning milk, still warm from the cow. Potatoes cubed and boiled until soft. Butter churned earlier that week. Simple stuff. But then you add those little rivel dumplings we talked about earlier. Suddenly, thin soup becomes a meal so heavy you might need a nap afterward. The whole pot costs maybe 75 cents. Feeds 10 people. And I mean really feeds them, the kind of full where you unbutton your pants and regret nothing. Celery and onions from the garden add flavor without adding cost. Everything comes from within walking distance of the kitchen. Here's the funny part, though. Amish kids apparently groan when they see this soup coming. Again? Really? Kids everywhere are the same, aren't they? Complaining about food that kept their great-grandparents alive through actual hardships. Speaking of breakfast, that'll carry you through a whole morning of work. Baked oatmeal might be the smartest breakfast invention nobody outside Amish country knows about. Regular oatmeal? You're standing at the stove stirring like your life depends on it. Miss a few seconds and suddenly you've got concrete drying in your pot. But baked oatmeal works differently. Mix everything in a pan the night before. Slide it in the oven while you're milking cows. Come back to something that looks like cake but counts as breakfast. And here's where Amish economics kick in again. They buy oats in 50-pound bags from Amish-run stores. 40 cents a pound. One 9x13 pan feeds 12 people. Do that math, and you're looking at maybe 15 cents per person for a breakfast that'll keep you full until lunch actually happens. The recipe itself is dead simple. Oats, eggs from the coop, milk from the barn, butter from the churn, maple syrup tapped from their own trees. Most families aren't buying a single ingredient. Depending on the season, they throw in whatever's available. Apples in fall, raisins when company comes, walnuts if the trees produced well that year. Church Sundays especially demand this dish. When 20 extra mouths show up, you need volume without chaos. Speaking of minimal effort meals that kept families alive, some nights cooking just isn't happening. After 14 hours of harvest work, Amish families sit down to torn bread in bowls of cold milk. That's it. No stove, no prep, no pretending anyone has energy for more. This isn't a recipe, it's a white flag. And honestly, the kids love it. They get to dump maple syrup or brown sugar into their bowls. Suddenly, we're too tired to cook, becomes dessert for dinner. Here's what makes this work financially. Homemade bread costs about 30 cents per loaf when you're grinding wheat from your own fields. The milk walked itself into the kitchen that morning. Sugar came from the pantry. Total meal cost for a family of 8? Maybe $1, maybe less. But here's the part that hits different. Older Amish members remember eating this 3-4 times a week as children in the 1950s. Not because their parents were lazy, because farming before modern equipment meant exhaustion that most of us can't even imagine. 1 bowl per person, 1 quick rinse, bed by 8. Sometimes the smartest meal is knowing when not to cook at all. Now, if you want a dish that sounds weird but tastes incredible, Schnitz und Knepp. Try saying that 3 times fast. This Pennsylvania Dutch dish translates to dried apples and dumplings. Sounds like dessert, right? Wrong. There's a ham hock swimming in there, too. Sweet apples, salty pork, fluffy dumplings, all in one pot. Your brain says no, your taste buds say absolutely yes. Here's the genius part. Apple trees don't need replanting every year. Once those trees mature, they just keep producing. Amish families pick hundreds of pounds each fall, slice them thin, and dry them on wooden screens. Free food that lasts until spring. The ham hock adds smoky depth, while the apples contribute natural sweetness. Meanwhile, the dumplings soak up all that flavor like tiny, delicious sponges. One pot feeds 12 people using nothing but preserved ingredients. No fresh produce required. No grocery runs. Just walk to the cellar, grab what you dried 6 months ago, and start cooking. And here's something that surprised me. Kids as young as 5 help with apple drying. It's often their very first kitchen job. 20 bushels per family isn't unusual. Speaking of stretching ingredients, wait until you see what they do with cold leftover mush. Yesterday's mush becomes today's masterpiece. Remember that thick cornmeal pot from earlier? Don't throw it out. Slice it cold, drop it in a hot skillet with some lard, and watch magic happen. The outside gets crispy like a hash brown. The inside stays creamy and soft. 2 textures from one ingredient that cost almost nothing. Now crack a few eggs into that same skillet. Farm fresh eggs with bright orange yolks, the kind that actually taste like something. Here's what kills me. Fancy restaurants charge $18 for polenta with a fried egg on top. They call it rustic Italian cuisine. The Amish have been eating this exact meal for 300 years, without the pretentious menu description. Most families eat fried mush 3 or 4 mornings per week during winter. That's not boredom. That's efficiency. Why fix what isn't broken? The real secret weapon? Sorghum molasses drizzled on top. Sweet, earthy, and grown right there in the community. It transforms the whole plate into something you'd actually crave. 0 waste, maximum energy. 1 pan to wash. But stretching ingredients gets even more creative when you're basically making fake steak from crackers. Poor man's steak sounds depressing. It's not. 1 pound of ground beef. 10 hungry people. Somehow, everybody leaves the table satisfied. That's not cooking. That's witchcraft. Here's how it works. You take that single pound of beef and mix it with crushed saltine crackers and milk. The crackers absorb everything, basically tripling the volume without tripling the cost. Form it into patties. Brown them quick in a hot skillet. Then comes the secret weapon. Homemade mushroom gravy gets poured over everything before the whole pan goes into the oven. None of that canned stuff with ingredient lists longer than the Bible. Just flour, butter, milk, and mushrooms foraged from the back pasture. During baking, something magical happens. Those crackers soak up the gravy and swell. Each bite tastes meatier than the actual meat content would suggest. Your brain gets fooled, your stomach gets full, your wallet stays happy. The Amish serve this for Sunday dinner when surprise guests show up, because in their world, turning away visitors isn't an option. And Monday, leftovers get sliced cold onto fresh bread for sandwiches. But the cheapest meal on this list grows right in your lawn. Most people poison it. Dandelions. Most Americans dump chemicals on their lawns trying to murder these things. The Amish? They grab a basket and call it grocery shopping. Here's the thing about dandelion greens. They're completely free. They grow everywhere. And they're packed with more vitamins than that expensive bag of spinach you forgot about until it turned to slime. The trick is timing. You harvest in early spring before the flowers show up. Young leaves taste slightly bitter. Old leaves taste like revenge. Now here's where it gets good. Hot bacon dressing. You fry up some bacon, keep that liquid gold in the pan, add vinegar and a little sugar. Pour it over the greens while it's still sizzling. The heat wilts everything just enough. The fat cuts through the bitterness. The vinegar adds punch. This salad hits Amish tables every April and May. That awkward gap when winter vegetables are gone and summer gardens haven't produced yet. Dandelions fill that hole perfectly. 300 years of eating what everyone else poisons. That's not poverty. That's wisdom most people forgot. Sometimes the cheapest meal isn't about stretching ingredients. It's about opening your eyes to what's already there.